Hey, what's up guys? Alright, so this video is going to be 3 of my favorite poses to do on a wedding day with the bride and groom. There's millions of them, but 3 specific ones that I know that I'll love and that will look great with any situation. In any situation, my 3 go-to poses to work from on a wedding day. So number 1, I have them facing each other, touching belly buttons and closing the gap. I'll have the groom's hands around the bride's waist. The bride will put her hand with the bouquet in it on the groom's shoulder, and the other hand will go around the back side of the groom. And I have them both looking at me and touching heads. So those are simple directions that I tell the bride and groom for a very easy pose. And this is just to kind of break down the walls of the bride and groom and get them comfortable with being in front of the camera. It's very simple, it looks very good, but the specific things I say will make a big difference. So number 1, touching belly buttons. Now it sounds weird, right? But basically what this does is eliminate any gaps from in between the subjects. I want them to be as close as possible and not have any gaps in between them. Number 2, I have the groom put his hands around the bride's waist. Now we as guys, sometimes our biggest thing is that we don't know what to do with our hands. So I always tell the groom that the best thing to do with them, if you don't know what to do, is to put them on your bride. And then the last thing I have them do is to look at me and touch heads. So them touching heads is much more aesthetically pleasing and easier to look at than both of them kind of backed away from each other and looking at me. Touching heads makes for a much more intimate experience and I can get a much tighter shot. It also prevents them from being in different depths of field. So they're both going to be in focus. One won't be in focus and the other won't. And this will make for a really, really good photo. Now from this photo, you can get different variations and even more poses. You can ask the bride to look at you while the groom nuzzles into where her temple is, specifically just his nose. You could ask him to give her a kiss on the cheek, and as he does that, the bride can simply look over her shoulder towards the ground. And then you can have them both looking at each other, touching foreheads, touching noses, and then also giving a kiss to end it off. So that's 6 photos and poses that I just gave you right there with that one general pose, which is the idea. I like to go in with 3 main poses and then break it down from there. The next pose I like to do is very similar, but just a slightly different variation. I have both of the bride and groom facing me dead on, holding hands, the groom's hand in his pocket, and then the bride having her bouquet draped to her side. You can kind of alternate who's looking at you, who's looking at each other, and still get different poses from this look. You can have the bride looking at you while the groom looks at her. You can switch that and have the groom looking at you. You can have them looking at each other, and you can even have the groom going for a kiss on the bride's cheek. And this does make for some really great photos as well. And now my third and one of my favorite poses to do is a walking photo. This is one of my favorites because I love motion in photos. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you can somehow create motion in your photos. Even though it's a still, you can get some great motion from the bride's dress as she walks, them holding hands, and then get them in action. And there's a lot of good interaction that you can capture during this pose. So what I usually like to do is I have the bride kind of step towards the front and she'll be leading the groom as they walk. And she'll be holding hands. And how I explain it is that this is a slow walk, almost as if you're walking on a tightrope. And then as you walk, start by looking at me and I'll give you direction on where to look. So as they walk, I'll say, okay, the bride can look at the groom. All right, both of you looking at me. Now I just want the groom looking at the bride. And this will make for some really, really great photos. And you can try this different times. You can switch it and have the groom be in the front and lead. But you can get so many great shots out of this as well. And at the end, if you want to, as they're walking, you can tell them to stop and go in for a kiss. And this is another great photo. Also, why not try having them do the opposite, walk away from you. And as they hold hands walking away from you, occasionally tell them to look back at the camera. So these are some simple poses that I've learned that are really easy to do in any situation. If you need a pose to do, these are 3 great ones that can give you so many different variations of poses when you're in a crunch. So I hope these help for you. Please leave your favorite poses to do with the bride and groom. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to use them if that's okay with you. But I hope this helps, and as always, like and subscribe for more content. We can't wait to see you next time, guys. All right, guys.